So you see what's happened by 2012. And this is a very important part of this that has to be explained. Because I mentioned Ben-Gurion's attitude, you know, we got this now, we'll take what we get now, but we want more. That attitude was widely shared. And settlers in Israel, this is where the settler colonialism is an ongoing organic process. Settlers expanded into these new territories. So the area, the growing white on the map here, is the disintegration of Palestine, disappearing Palestine through Jewish settlements. All of these are illegal. Again, your map in 1947, that's legal. The UN recognized Israel in the partition of Palestine. Everything else is illegal. Occupations are not supposed to be permanent, and settlers are not supposed to be taking new land. And they have taken new land to this tune that you see on the map, and it's even grown more since then. About 700,000 plus Jewish settlers have moved onto Palestinian land and driven Palestinians off. So we see the horrible things Hamas is doing, and I have no intention of saying that they aren't horrible. Israel's done horrible things in the occupied territories for many years, and particularly in Gaza, as a matter of fact. But driving people out of their homes, demolishing homes, incarcerating people, shooting people, this has all been done again and again and again in the occupied territories. It spurred some things you might have heard of. The Intifada in 1987 was an effort, unlike what Hamas has done, to peacefully resist and bring a certain Martin Luther King-style change, brutally repressed. Second Intifada in 2000, brutally repressed. Israel has been a repressive, brutal, militarist occupying power. I know it might sound like harsh language. Sorry, it's reality. That's been done. And this is the result. So all these have been condemned by the UN. There's all sorts of votes in the UN denouncing these illegal Jewish settlements. And they usually are by votes of 150 to 2, for example, with only the United States and Israel voting against this. Or 148 to 4. You throw in the Marshall Islands or some other U.S. Country that the U.S. funds. So this is not accepted by the international community. It's not legitimate, it's illegal, and it's very repressive. And this gives rise to the rage that you see on your television screens. You can't understand what's happening today if you start with October 7th. You are clueless and hopeless to understand what's happening if you think it started on October 7th. Pearl Harbor happened on December 7th. As Scott Latterman and many other know, including you all, a lot went on before December 7th. That didn't happen out of a vacuum either. So that's not the way history works. And so this history is vital for you to understand, to grasp and appreciate the horrific things that are happening today and are going to continue to happen. All right, so Gaza. Gaza is, I'll talk for about 10 more minutes and then turn it over to you folks. Gaza is about the size of Duluth. It's really about the size of Duluth. Scott looked it up. Greater Duluth is roughly 22 miles wide. I don't know about, or long, I don't know about wide. 26, you'll go with that. So Gaza's 25 and 5 miles wide. What's the population of Duluth? 86,000. What's the population of Gaza? 2.2 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just think about that. And among other things, think about the bombs going off there. And, right now Israel has said, get out. There's no place to go. It's blockaded. Israel withdrew from Gaza. So you see that it's green on the map. There were Israeli settlements in Gaza, but they were relatively few, not like the West Bank. So the West Bank is the area over here, the West Bank of the Jordan River. That's where the occupation resistance has gone on for years. Gaza, Sharon said, to hell with Gaza, just give it back to them and force the settlers to leave, which they were very unhappy about. So if you think there's going to be a two-state settlement, which has long been the goal, I would argue it's probably too late for that. There's just not enough of Palestine left. Look at it. It's not there anymore. How are you going to make a state out of that hodgepodge? And then there's all kinds of things we could talk about. There's checkpoints, roads, Jewish-only roads. If you go and visit, you can see the occupation and the brutality of it. It's not the way anybody would want to live, and they're certainly not free people. It has nothing to do with justice and human rights. So Gaza's small, but maybe the most densely populated place in the world, even more than Tokyo. And so what's going to happen to Gaza after they let it go? Well, Bush W. Wanted, after his brilliant invasion of Iraq, he touted free elections in Iraq. We're going to turn Iraq into a democracy. And so let's do this in Gaza too. Let's have elections. Well, it's a problem. Hamas won. They had free elections that were supervised by the international community. This was at a time when we recognized the results of free elections as being legitimate, not like today. But it was a legitimate election, and Hamas won. And this was unacceptable to the United States. So, okay, forget free elections. We're not for that after all, because the wrong guys won. And Israel viewed Hamas as purely a terrorist organization, which is very problematic. We could talk about if you wanted to. It's certainly engaging in terroristic activities now. There's no question about that. Calling it simply a terrorist bomb squad organization is too simplistic. Hamas has been willing to talk, and it's even said here in the last couple of days, you want to talk? We'll talk about the hostages. We can talk. But Netanyahu, believe me, the happiest guy in the world today. I'm lapsing into sarcasm, I can see that, but is Benjamin Netanyahu. He wants to unload on Gaza. He wants to kill Palestinians. He really does. He is, in my view, a certified war criminal with what he's done and what he has advocated. All right, so it's a small place. It's a vulnerable place. Israel blockaded it. That is, they control access to it, coming and going, both by sea and by land. There's an access to Egypt on the other side, and it's highly impoverished. It's hardly an independent free country in any nature. Now, in recent years, and I'll finish up here and we can turn it over to some discussion, a number of things have happened under Netanyahu, this intensely right-wing Israeli leader, and a corrupt leader, I might add. Many people feel like one reason Netanyahu is happy is this. The Israeli newspaper Haaretz today had a very sharp editorial saying that Netanyahu will exploit this for his own personal benefit to avoid, he's been charged with corruption and is supposed to be going to trial for that. What's happened? Well, so under the original UN plan, after the partition of Palestine, there was going to be a Palestinian state. Its capital would be at East Jerusalem, the eastern part of the Holy City. Instead, Israel is steadily cleansing East Jerusalem of Palestinians and taking it over. Israel has formally proclaimed itself a Jewish state. It's not a state with Jews and Palestinians, it's a Jewish state. It's a state for the Jewish people. Well, Palestinians live within Israel, and Palestinians are the majority, of course, of the occupied territories, although these settlers are streaming in ever-increasing numbers. If you're a Jewish state, you are an apartheid state. It's that simple. You can't be a Jewish state and a democratic state at the same time. If you want to be a democratic state, you have to be a state that's where all people are equal. If you're a Jewish state and certain rights and privileges are for Jewish people only, access to certain roads are Jewish people only, you're driving the non-Jewish people off their lands, taking their lands, shooting at them when they go to harvest their olive trees, incarcerating people without trial, beating, maiming, killing. They've done all that for decades. It's just reality. I'm not making it up. So this is what you won't hear on CNN or MSNBC and God knows Fox. You're not going to hear any of this. I've been watching, and I haven't heard precious little, although there have been a couple of references to Gaza as the world's largest outdoor prison, and that's an apt characterization. So all of this is enraging, and what you see is rage by Hamas. These are young people who are angry, repressed, and violent. They've been mistreated. Their people have been mistreated. And now Netanyahu has moved to make it a permanent settlement. The attitude is, screw them. It's a Jewish state. We're taking the capital for ourselves. Too bad. And this is what you get. And that's where we are today and why we're where we are today.